Some of humanity's greatest works of art are born of its toughest challenges. I love that sentence because it speaks to grit and resilience, and I think it's emblematic of our work at Mural Arts. Mural Arts Philadelphia was founded in 1998 with a mission to use the profound power of art to ignite change. Change in people, change in place, change in practice. Its inception was inspired by the Anti-Graffiti Network. I was hired by Anti-Graffiti in 1984, and it was a life-changing moment for me. There was an abundance of graffiti in Philadelphia, and I had the good fortune to start working with graffiti writers, to meet them, to look at the work they were doing. They had these wonderful black books with drawings in them, and I was able to understand their motivation, why they wrote on walls, and then to really think about how we could inspire them to help us beautify the city. What I discovered was that many of these graffiti writers wanted to be artists. They loved art. It was really our area of commonality. What they had talent, they had gifts, they had genius, some of them. What they didn't have were opportunities and options, and they just needed the right supplies and support systems. This is when we realized how transformative art could be, because the minute we started offering programs and doing projects around the city, they started changing. It was like their world started to open up. It was wonderful and so inspiring. Now, though graffiti isn't as rampant in Philadelphia as it once was, the city and its residents still face a number of profound challenges. 25% of Philadelphians are living in poverty, and 1 in 5 adults experience a mental health disorder, while only 40% receive the services they need to manage those disorders. We were lucky. Under Mayor John Street, Mural Arts became part of the city's Division of Social Services in 2002, so that we could focus on how art could play a central role in social service work, but more importantly, in grappling with many of the critical challenges facing Philadelphia. Right away, we started working with major departments. We were testing an idea. Can being part of a public art project help people connect to the services they need and make those services more approachable and less stigmatized? With this knowledge, we launched our Porch Light program in 2013 in partnership with the City of Philadelphia's Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services to explore how art could help achieve universal health and wellness among Philadelphians, especially those dealing with mental health issues or trauma. We quickly found cohesion among our program participants. People felt better about themselves, more connected to each other and to the social service provider. Part of a grant we received from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, including an evaluation, was amazing. We were able to work with the Yale Medical School. They conducted a 4-year evaluation of Porch Light to help us identify areas of focus and measure success of the program. And what did they look at? They looked at things on an individual level. Porch Light provides an opportunity for developing new friendships and connections, an enhanced sense of self-esteem and personal capacity, a desire to give back to the community and neighborhood, an increased sense of hope for the future, which I'm going to call collective efficacy. On a provider level, well, that was interesting as well. The program signals a culture shift between providers and clients. It gives participants a sense of belonging and a sense of community they can feel connected to. You know, people live in overwhelming isolation sometimes, and this counters that. And on a community level, Porch Light facilitates stronger collaboration between agencies and residents. It helps shift perceptions of the community and social cohesion. Today, what does Porch Light do? Well, it facilitates over 27,000 program interactions each year. It hosts 75 to 100 people at hub sites throughout the city, and it administrates programming in over 30 languages and dialects to closely connect people with program participants. So literally, thousands and thousands of people are involved in the Porch Light program. It is really inspiring to see people go from thinking that there is no hope, that they're in the dark, in isolation and fear. And this does not have to be the way their life is. It can open up. And now I'd like to introduce the wonderful Nadia Malik, who is the director of our Porch Light program.
Thank you, Jane. So what began as a leap of faith of testing how art and mural making can affect behavioral health turned into a long-term program. Porch Light began with provider sites, and as Jane mentioned, that's what was studied by Yale. That program continues to go strong. Now in Porch Light, we pick 2 providers every 2 years. We spend that time conducting weekly art programming and have a mural at the end of each of those years. As you can see from this quote from Vicky, one of our participants at a provider site, she illustrates that art gives people an avenue that they may not otherwise have been open up to. When participants at a provider site come together to work on a mural or another art project, they're building up their problem-solving skills and camaraderie with each other. Anyone who's worked on a group project knows that comes with its own set of issues, but learning to work in that setting gives participants skills that they can apply in other situations, which is always one of the long-term goals of therapy, taking the things that we work on and putting them out into the world in our real-life situations. The murals, of course, also give voice to a community, especially marginalized ones, the ones that we work with. The participants get to tell their stories through the murals. Instead of letting their struggles with behavioral health become a stigma, they can openly showcase them and give people fuller pictures of who they actually are. After Porch Light had studied success in its model, we really wanted to continue to expand that and ingrain ourselves more fully into communities. While we're at provider sites for 2 years at a time, we wanted to just become more established names in communities, especially those struggling with really unique issues. We're able to do that with our storefronts. We now have 3 storefronts in 3 parts of the city, in the Southeast, in the Northeast, and in Kensington. Before establishing any of our storefronts, we worked to create partnerships in the community to ensure that we're really approaching the residents correctly. In the Southeast and Northeast, we work with refugee and immigrant families. And in Kensington, we work with those affected by opiate use disorder, including those directly dealing with the disorder and the community that has to handle the repercussions of a serious crisis on their doorsteps. Our storefronts have the advantage of having daily programming of art workshops, and we're also able to experiment with different art forms. We're able to bring in different artists and see what they can do in the communities. In the Southeast and Northeast, for example, we have ESL classes that ingrain art as a storytelling tool. And in Kensington, the manager is a music therapist and includes music in much of the work that she does. We saw the effects art has on the mental health of our participants in provider sites on a weekly basis. And now on a daily basis, we can see how our participants can grow with the influence of art programming. In the Southeast and the Northeast, we work with refugees and immigrants who can feel out of place in their new surroundings. The art activities, they give us an opportunity to work on building self-esteem. We highlight the talents that these folks already bring with them, such as weaving and textile work, and showcase them. Often talents that are brought in from another country can be overlooked, but we really strive to underscore the value that all immigrants bring. Art also has the advantage of offering the satisfaction of completing a project from start to finish. And that can really work wonders on someone who's in the midst of a mental health crisis and feels an inability to complete any task. I was at a recent community meeting where a woman was describing the worth of working on a mural. She said there's just something really invaluable about looking at a mural and thinking, I helped create that. There's also the motivation to learn something new because others are learning it alongside with you. And our aim with our storefronts is to create environments that are inclusive and non-judgmental. So whatever form any project takes gets praised. It's an arena to help people experiment and try new things. And it also gives people an opportunity to build unexpected skills. Someone can take up painting and not know what they can do with it and create something beautiful. And that's a great motivator for a lot of people. In our spaces, we also try to give people opportunities in different arenas. And that applies both to our art and our mental health offerings. We do this so people have control over the decisions they're making. This is really important because often people in the midst of a mental health disorder feel like they don't have control over themselves. One of our storefront managers describes this as a continuum of intervention. If you want to sit in color, you're able to come in and do that. If you just want to have food and a place to relax for a few minutes, we're open to that. You can connect with other people, but as you come in more and more, I think people get more comfortable, and then that means they can seek out help for more serious issues. All these options are there for our participants, and our spaces that are designed to be as low barrier as possible help to really slowly build that trust for participants so that they can be more comfortable bringing up some of the harder questions that they're dealing with. The storefronts also give people permission to come in and create art and just taking a moment to do that alone. Many of our participants come from environments where they just don't have the luxury to take time for themselves, and we want them to use art as an avenue for stress relief and for centering themselves above all others. Just having this chance to zone out and work on something gives people a chance to relax. And because our storefronts are long-standing, they provide a space where you can see kind of this physical manifestation of the journey that people have taken. Art is great in that it's a tangible thing. It doesn't disappear. You make something that lasts. And if you've been coming to the storefront for years, you have a collection of the physical items that you've created that show your growth and change. In Kensington, the different art pieces created by our participants are displayed on the walls on a rotating basis. And for participants who are often seen as a drain on society by others, this proud display of their work is really a big contrast to how they're perceived otherwise. Our storefronts are really built on the stories and the work of the participants. So with the success of our storefronts, Porch Light has moved into a new arena. This past year, we were able to launch our first same-day wage program. Color Me Back, as it was named by our participants, aims to pay people for creating art. Our focus is on the housing insecure. We pay folks $50 a day to create murals in Philadelphia subway stations. We also provide behavioral health services alongside the work so that those who don't have a place to live have just another new avenue to find services and employment. We're really building on the amazing work that other housing insecure organizations in the city have already done and giving people just a new pathway. Although our participants have the opportunity to make money, what we also found is that we're able to create a therapeutic space for 4 hours every day for those participants. The act of making art alone also allows participants to reconnect to themselves. One of our participants, he started going to see a therapist because of his time with us, just because he realized he had a lot of underlying anger issues. While he was talking to his therapist, she was able to make the connection for him between physical pain that may be caused by his mental health issues. For him, that really explained why the back pain that had been bothering him for years. However, what he told us was that when he's in our studio space in Color Me Back, that back pain just goes away. And to me, that really speaks to the space we've created, where participants can get away from some of the issues they're continually facing and focus on one thing at a time. And art also creates an avenue to allow that focus. Our hands are occupied when we're making art, and that really frees up the mind. There's an array of grounding techniques that therapists use. Those are really for folks who've been elevated and who need to be brought back to the present moment. And sensory work is always part of grounding someone. Art inherently has that physical sensory work that keeps people focused on the here and now. And I think we often run across people who have trepidation trying something new, and that's especially true when it comes to art. But when someone's created something, there's always that sense of pride in that creation and in tackling something scary. We see that all the time in our programs. People are skeptical of trying a new art skill, but once they've seen what they're capable of, they have a newfound respect for themselves. And we hope that newfound respect carries on into the outside world that they go on into. Art also really creates an avenue for healthy expression of emotions. It's a known stress reliever. For our participants especially, they face dangers while living in uncertain conditions. They always have to be on alert, and our space gives them some time to release some of those anxieties and emotions and express them in a safe way through art. That release is extremely important. It gives them some armor to go back out into the world. And art is also a really good physical container of emotions that are overflowing. Instead of holding those inside or having those being released in inopportune moments, art can give us an idea, a space that can hold those emotions instead.
Now I'd like to talk about the future of Porch Light. So now that we've been able to test so many of our programs with many different populations, we want to keep growing. We think that we're onto something really important, that this is needed in the city, and we'd like to open more spaces if possible. We want the idea that art can be a pathway to behavioral health grow and grow. The murals that Porch Light creates in our city leave a mark for our participants, and by extension, the citizens are inspired. It shows the pain they've come from, but the progress that they have made. The murals also, let's face it, they're big and they're bold and they're beautiful, and they serve as a beacon to others that art can be an option in a moment that seems otherwise impossible. In that vein, we're embarking on a new project with our Color Me Back participants in the Walnut-Locust concourse of the subway system, an area that is just so bleak, and we're really happy to be working with SEPTA. We have an amazing artist, Lauren Cat West, and she has designed something really quite extraordinary. And the space is cavernous, so I feel like it is such a perfect spot for a mural. The space serves as home to many of our homeless participants, and we love the idea that they get to beautify this space and leave their mark on the city in just such a wonderful way. We're also determined to showcase the importance of art in all aspects of our life, including for the most vulnerable populations of the city who are dealing with the effects of trauma, mental health issues, and now COVID-19. Although we love the idea of beautifying the city with murals, we feel that art is an effective tool for dealing with some of the biggest issues in Philadelphia. And really, what I love is that in the midst of fear and isolation, we are learning that profound change is possible. That's what I love about Porch Light. I love the name because it's when you see a light is on a porch, you feel the warmth, you feel the glow. And for us at Mural Arts, we feel the transcendent power of art. Thank you.